welcome to another video. In this video, I'm going to talk about microservices and why there is so much hype around microservices and why more companies are trying to move towards microservices architecture. So the problem with the legacy code that we have, the problem with the existing architecture is that most of the code is really tightly coupled, and you have JSPs and servlets and application layer, JDBC layers, all in one project. And it becomes with time, when the project grows, when the company grows, with growth in company, with growth in the project, the code really becomes a huge mess, and it becomes really difficult to maintain the code. And that is a big reason why, if you want to scale a particular component, you have to scale the whole project. You have to scale all the components at once. There is no possible way where you can, in a legacy system or in the existing architecture, where you can where you can scale a particular component. So it becomes really difficult to scale a particular component without affecting the other components. If there's a need to scale only one component, it really becomes difficult. So that is one of the problems with the existing architecture. Another problem is maintainability, because the code is so tightly coupled with each other. You have the UI layer, you have the application layer, you have the JDBC layer, everything in one project. So it really becomes difficult for developers to maintain the code. So that is a major problem with the existing architecture. So what is microservice? What is a microservice? Microservice is basically or essentially an API first approach. So you have different layers separated from each other, and then when you need to use another layer, or when you need to use another component, you make an API call, or you need to make a call to the particular component. So that is basically microservice. Microservice basically is, having a tightly coupled system separated into independent autonomous systems which are independent of each other, and they together form one whole application. So you have the whole application divided into chunks. You have the whole application divided into bits, and the bits or the chunks call each other through maybe REST services, or through APIs. They make API calls and they make the whole application. So what is the point of making this? What is the usefulness of having a microservices architecture? So in this kind of an architecture where you have different systems or different components which are not tied to each other very tightly, which are rather loosely coupled, if there's a need to scale one particular component, you can easily do that without affecting the other component. So maybe you have a service which needs to be scaled at some point in time because there is high demand for that particular service. So you just scale that particular component, or that particular part of the application is, and not affect the whole application. So that is one important aspect of microservice architecture. Another important aspect is that it becomes really easy for developers to maintain code because they are working on independent and small modules. So it really becomes easy for developers. Compared to legacy systems or legacy code, compared to the existing architecture that we currently have, it is really easier for developers to maintain microservice code. So that is another helpfulness or usefulness of microservice. That is another usefulness of microservice. But microservice is not like microservice is no Batman, and it is not going to save Gotham. So microservice is no Batman. So there are cons of microservice, and it does have pros, but there are cons of microservice as well. So we need to understand those as well, because there are multiple modules, because there are many systems which are talking to each other and which are communicating with each other. sometimes it can get really difficult to manage all those components, and we need a lot of services which are required to manage the microservices and bind them together. So that can be one issue. And if a microservices architecture is not properly, uh, if a microservices architecture is not properly uh, implemented, it can really become difficult to manage so many services, and you just lose track of which service is talking to which service and stuff like that. So it really becomes difficult to manage if it is not well architectured. So we cannot really give a verdict that microservices is the best approach, uh, but it does address the existing issues, the issues with the existing architecture, the existing monolithic architecture. But yes, microservices do have their own issues, and microservices, if not implemented well, can have a lot of problems and can create a lot of problems and can be really difficult to manage when there are a lot of services talking to each other. So yes, but microservice is the buzzword, and it is gonna stay in the IT industry. It is gonna be trending in the IT industry for quite some time, and uh, like like this is what happens in the IT industry, right? I mean, there's a thing which comes, and every company tries to follow that approach, and it just trends in the IT industry, and it stays for a couple of years or so, and then it just finally vanishes, and it is taken over by some other uh, architecture or some other technology, and that is that is a that is a thing about the IT industry, that never particular technology or a particular stuff never really stays, continues to stay. It is always taken over by something else, and that is what technology is all about. So I guess that is all I have to say about microservices. And as always, if you're not already subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe. And when you subscribe, please click on the bell icon so that you never miss a video on my channel. And thanks for watching.